Hello out there. I'm Geronimo, and we're here at my starter base in Gregtech New Horizons. I've had so much fun getting to this point that I got a bit sentimental about leaving this behind, and thought if I wanted to share and maybe get some advice, now's the perfect time. If you're new to modded, or GTNH, hopefully this shows you it's easier to get into than you might have thought. Here's a look at progression. EV tier is unlocked, we've got the tier 1 rocket and all the early space race quests knocked out, a solid start on Thaumcraft and Witchery, some applied energistics, some bees, which are actually a really big part of what I've got going on. And all the tiers up to EV are mostly complete with a couple of omissions, and almost all of this was done from that little hole in the ground. If you're a GTNH veteran, you know this is just the beginning, and maybe you're ready to share some wisdom. Here's the world map. Starter base is right here. Spawn was a few hundred blocks north. Basically all I did was wander south until I found 80% humidity, some big trees around, and started digging. Over 300 hours later, I'm almost as attached to this little hole in the ground as I am excited about the next phase of the game and the new base you can see in progress right here. So before I get too ahead of myself, here's how it all went down. This is the story of my 300 hours in Gregtech New Horizons. Chapter 1. Blastoff. This is where it all began. A hole in the ground became a shack, and the mining and crafting started. A few chests have been moved, some barrels, a couple of odds and ends, but this was pretty much it. Everything you're going to see was crafted in these crafting tables. Like most packs, the early game of GTNH is a mad dash for the basics. Animals, crops, wood, gravel, sand, and clay. My previous experience in modded served me really well in this early phase, and I got all the materials I needed to advance and all the basic animals, except the pig, which doesn't give leather and almost certainly means I would never need it and wouldn't come back to bite me at all. Progress ensued. Get a bed. Get food. Get cotton. Get tools. Get ore. Get a smeltery. Get steam. Get ore doubling. Get bricks. Get primitive blast furnace. Get steel. Get better tools. Get to the nether. Get sulfur. Get more rubber. Get more paper. Get high pressure. Get circuit components. Get to LV. So here we are at the LV line. Running on steam, we got 25 high pressure solar boilers up top. Got 4 primitive blast furnaces up there too. Steam's powering some odd stuff down there, we didn't have that at the time, and also the first multi-blocks of the game over here, the steam macerator and steam furnace, both huge upgrades for their time. Significant investment of very precious ingots, but man is it worth it. Actually, still ore doubled in this thing until HV, when the byproducts of ore processing became important. We got a mix of machines here. The quest book guides you to most of them, and you get very familiar with what they do. I won't lie, the very start of the game does have some tedium to it, but most of the early struggle is gone with a little investment in LV. The assembler alone gives tons of cheaper recipes. Most of this is little used now, aside from this line that automates lathe for building the new base, but wow, did these feel huge at the time. Also a big upgrade on noise level if you're playing with block sound like me. Along the way, the questbook goes from intimidating to useful, with chapters opening and new options being put in front of you, like the smeltery and the suddenly open multi-block goals chapter when you get into the Stone Age questline a bit, and learning to review the book for tier appropriate options now and again proved very valuable. The questbook is kind of non-linearly linear, if that makes sense. Probably not. Okay, what I'm saying is there's a clear set of milestones, but within each tier, for example, it's not fully spelled out what to do. The EBF quest is not in the LV tier chapter, but you need it to advance to MV. At first, this was a little frustrating, but then I started to appreciate that it was forcing me to explore the pack, helping me plan, and even sending me down my own unrelated rabbit holes in NEI just to see what else I could do or craft or what I might want later. Now, I recognize it as thoughtful design. Advancing in the pack takes planning, and actually that little bit of extra commitment it took, beyond just playing the game, really motivated me. I found myself making flowcharts and base schematics and lists of goals literally for the first time ever in my gaming life, and it was fun. The questbook helped me realize what it would take, and then it helped me with the plan too. Is it perfect? Who's to say? It's the best I've ever seen though. Around this time is also where a lesson was learned about being thorough. You see, one of the first ores you need that can be tricky to get enough of is calcite. You need it for the primitive blast furnace, and you're definitely going to want more than one. This is the first pack I've ever played where the rate you use resources far outpaces your ability to collect them, even in these huge ore veins, basically forever, unless you make significant investments. I can't name how many mod packs and other games I've played where you reach an immortal power level or creative mode equivalent in the first 20 hours. Not here. I committed to taking out every vein I came across absolutely to death while I waited for my one primitive blast furnace to spit out steel until I could get more. But as luck would have it, I mined my way right into an in-portal room. This was the moment that changed everything. A stronghold was literally directly under my base. I couldn't do anything just yet, not even go to the end, but I had something better than asserting dominance on the end lizard. I had a goal. In GTNH, strongholds contain loot chests with a loot pool that includes oblivion frames, the only place in the game they can be found. Crafting them is outrageously unachievable until much later, and this stronghold contained 2 frames. Up to this point, I'd been playing the pack just to advance, following the quest book and doing more or less what was suggested, and that was totally fun. But now, I had a grand design. In this pack, any grand designs need to include a plan for power, and now, I had one. The goal was simple: use the oblivion frames to become a master beekeeper, and power my way to future nuclear reactors with refined bees. Chapter 2. You're a wizard, Gary. No, you're a... Easy enough goal, right? Wrong. Oblivion frames are crazy powerful, basically time in a bottle for breeding bees, but they have very limited durability, and because they're completely irreplaceable at this point in the game, using them would be a big risk. I needed a way to repair them, and I knew Thaumcraft offers a way and is accessible at LV. Thanks again, Questbook. There's a big difference between the mod being accessible and having access to the item we need, in this case, the Thaumic Restorer. Progress ensued. Get to the Twilight Forest. Get ore. Get shards. Get more steam. Get mica. Get oil. Get electric blast furnace. Get to MV. Get fuel. Get polyethylene. Get Naga scales. Get wand. Get research. Get new clothes. Get new wand. Get SSG. Get EBF upgrades. Get stainless steel. Get better circuits. Get to HV. Get new wand. Get infusion. Get Thaumic Restorer. Ah, MV. What a ride. There's some great quality of life improvements that feel huge much earlier on, but here's where we see the first of the major steps forward in terms of material collection. The initial aluminum to break into MV had to come from aluminum gravel, rarely found on the surface of the overworld. In MV, you can electrolyze clay dust for alumina dust, and EBF that with cryolite for what at the time seemed like infinite ingots. The electrolyzer setup has been useful for tons of stuff, as you can see: alumina, chrome, carbon, silicon, sodium, manganese, all good stuff that was needed to get the stainless steel, needed for the wand upgrade, needed for the infusion altar, needed for the Thaumic Restorer. Anyway, now we had it. This felt like another massive success. I even got the chicken flight potion and only 100 chicken kills, so on top of being able to launch my bee empire, I now had creative flight I could restore as well. Finding hives, finding biomes, escaping danger, I was on easy street now, and boy was I ready to stop moving my oil pump. I started plotting my way down the breeding path for the refined bee, and there is the monastic drone, which you can't breed. Gotta find that one from villagers. No worries, I've been all around the world, found plenty of villages with forestry houses in them. I did find a couple of villagers, and one eventually traded me for the monastic drones. He also traded apiaries for noble princesses and emeralds, which other than finding the stronghold early, was the single biggest shortcut I got on my bee journey. Oh, Monty, you poor soul. He lived here, lavishly comfortable in this tiny cage with only a bed, right next to the work he loved. In retrospect, I probably should have given him a better home because literally as soon as I wasn't popping out the sleeping bag right here, he was gone. I like to imagine a fishing zombie yanked him out of his cage and ate him. At least that's funny. There were some serious miscalculations along the way, including a massive detour into witchery thinking I needed the rural bee to get to refined, which can only be bred in a plains biome, which despite traveling thousands of blocks and using the biome compass on the edges of explored range, I have not found. You, don't need the rural bee. Not sure why I got that in my head. But the result? The full nano suit, nano goggles of revealing, nano boots of the traveler, 2 more wand upgrades that took way too long because I had no idea how to path the upgrades after the basic wands, and face smashed the Hydra for an hour trying to get fiery blood after slaying the Minotaur and rushing HP and Nichrome for my first Vibrant Alloy before realizing I was 250% of the V cost shy for Silverwood wands to finally get the right upgrade path to reach 100 V capacity so I could make the Witchery Distiller, which I didn't even need. And ultimately, this is the perfect time to shout out the Shadow of X and Threefold, who have put together an incredible guide, not only for Thaumcraft wand progression, but also a ton of other stuff. I won't post a link to the guide here because I want no credit in case someone somehow finds out about it here, but I'll link to Three's channel where you can find this guide on every GTNH video, which are super entertaining and come with great comments. Also, could not talk about GTNH bees without mentioning Diddy, whose channel is linked as well. Diddy's guide on how bees work in GTNH is the only one of its kind, and if there's only going to be one, this is literally the one you would want. It's very good. He also streams GTNH and has all the VODs available for your research. The GTNH Discord is also a really active and friendly place full of mad scientists and archmages and even the developers themselves and all sorts of cool ideas. Detour aside, the nanosuit is sick. I'll eventually want the Brew of Shifting Seasons to localize all my bees, and Thaumcraft is certainly not over. In the end, the refined bee was secure, and the vision was taking shape. Chapter 3. I can see my house from here. Next on the list was scaling up bees. That meant more princesses and getting alvearies. If you didn't know, alvearies take a lot of honey and seed oil, so this was going to be slow. Luckily, there's always plenty to keep you busy. I started with the basic bees, and I needed something to do with all that fuel once I had it anyway. I got the early bees chugging away on combs, jelly, and pollen, so I set up a farming station for sesame seeds, finally deciding to get the unbreakable matic from the crest reward. Ah, the pig. For almost 200 hours, I'd been ignoring pigs completely, and now I needed 100 pork chops for this matic. Lesson learned. Prepare all the way if you can, and I could've. There's other ways to get unbreakable tools, but I felt like I needed to take my medicine. Anyway, it was time to push further into HV while accumulating honey and seed oil. I also had access to Ender IO, which meant more compact automation was on the horizon. Progress ensued. Get Bobo cooling system. Get Canthal. Get item conduits. Get polyvinyl chloride. Get super tanks. Get machines. Get ore. Get the clean room. Get better circuits. Get better bools. Get vacuum freezer. Get ore processing. Get activated division sigil. Get automated building blocks. Get nichrome coils. Get cetane boosted diesel. Get to the moon. A little tight in here, isn't it? This and the freezer were the last important multi-blocks that got set up at this original base. At this point, the need for space finally caught up with me, and I broke ground on the new one. But man, did a lot get crammed in here, and man, did I make a lot of circuits. Here's the power generation for the clean room. At this point, complete overkill with 3 MV combustion generators for a single amp of LV power. But during that progression, this was the backbone of circuit generation, guzzling fuel to power laser engravers and circuit assemblers. I'll recycle them soon. You'll see. And here's the current EBF and vacuum freezer setup, wedged in the back corner, sharing power with ore processing since that's where the largest combination of HV batteries and generators live. There's enough power generation to sustain either ore processing or the constant use of the EBF and freezer, but not both. I had plenty to do, so patience worked at this point in the game. While working on all that delicious progress, we also chipped away at the alvearies and started installing stimulators with circuit boards to max the production. The stats on the bees are good, but not perfect yet. Strangely, I still haven't gone to the end, despite finding the end portal in the first few mining sessions, so I don't have blinding production speed, just fast. but they're nocturnal, rain tolerant, and cave dwelling with long lifespans, so this has room to improve without adding alvearies yet. I also worked out a bit of strategy for passing traits and getting the early mutations that made getting pure bees a bit easier while also passing basic traits and mutations that I'm happy to share in the future if anyone's interested. Leave a comment if so. I'm no expert, but that might mean if it worked for me, it just works. I guess we'll see. All that was left was to get the implosion compressor and some TNT. Pretty easy now that toluene is a byproduct of the power system, courtesy of the max-size distillation tower and oil-cracking multi-block handling naphtha. The desulfurization of all 4 fuel types is producing sulfuric acid too, which was fantastic for all the circuits. Did I mention I made a lot of circuits? All of this will get redone in the AE and large chemical reactor era, but I'm really happy with how this turned out, and it's producing far more fuel than I'm using, at least for now. I think it's comparable to benzene in cost, the much more popular option. Probably need that too, but this has been fun. We'll see how it scales. The rocket is a deeply nested craft, but it was done, though I missed the dang quest and had to remake the seat in the frequency module. I also prepared to an insane degree for the first trip. I tried to take all the lessons I had learned so far with me. I knew that major resource bottlenecks were about to open up. Chrome especially was going to get much easier to come by, and titanium is one of the important ingots in EV, which initially comes from bauxite on the moon. I brought 4 HV miners, 2 multi-block fluid rigs, hundreds of cells of fuels, and full capacitors and spare combustion generators for the oxygen setup. I had glowstone nooks to light up the dark. I was as ready as I could be. And with that, we had entered the space era. Chapter 4. Today. And that brings us to today. Here we are above the new base, giant GTNH logo gleaming below. Really love the way the lights turned out there. You can see the alvearies right down there, and below that is the petrochem room we saw before. The plan is for this big silo to be the nexus of the base, with AE and main power storage in there, with giant extensions off each diagonal and a decent space for magic on the north side. There's the first extension. It's empty at the moment, and there's almost no detail, but there's also no real rush. I really like the idea of an overgrown temperate forest vibe. Thoughts? For now, it's a blank slate. Fully built, it should be enough space for the short term, I think. Strangely, glass is the current bottleneck on expanding. I really like the tinted glass if you can't tell. I haven't figured out quite how I want to address that. If you have ideas, let me know. AE is up and running and has at least a little bit of room to grow. There's a titanium processing chain here too that loops the carbon and chlorine. It's actually been slightly modified temporarily to process ilmenite into more rutile, the other input in the titanium chain, while I make this video. Always something to do while you wait, right? Also, the first of many LCRs to come. The single block chemical reactor can only take 1 fluid in fluid form. The others have to be in cells. That's part of why the cetane over there is so messy. The other part is me. This bad boy can deal with multiple fluids in fluid form, and it's going to be awesome. I had to set up PTFE, or polytetrafluoroethylene, to get the LCR, and that's when I moved the polyethylene line from the old base, triggering the whole wave of sentimentality that resulted in this video. Eventually I may move to the void. We'll see how my computer holds up. Without landscape to inspire, building is tougher for me, but I'm not exactly running on the latest NASA technology, and at least at the moment, I'm hosting the server on the same machine I play on. That probably isn't going to work out long term. The pack runs better than you might expect with 300 mods, but it's still 300 mods, and eventually even the new base will be way insufficient. There's still plenty to do before that. The workshop, ore processing, and circuit production all need to be moved and automated. Power production needs to be scaled up dramatically, and hopefully centralized at some point soon. Not to mention moving and continuing magic and bees. Oh, and crops, right. I also need the new rubber types, and I could really use the new multi-block miner, but that means I need drilling fluid, and I haven't even automated. Either way, it's time to say farewell to the starter base. Building it was an exercise in learning to love gaming again. Boy, saying goodbye is still harder than I thought. If you're still here, I hope you enjoyed this journey through the early part of the early game of Gregtech New Horizons. Yeah, that's all that was. This mod pack, in my opinion, is one of the shining achievements of the Minecraft community. From the mods themselves to the pack to the quest book, that it has survived and been improved so much over 9 years really is incredible, and the result is a truly unique experience that I've seen no match for. It takes time, it takes research, it takes planning, it even takes math. That's not for everyone. I didn't think it was for me. I'm glad I tried it anyway. The game forces you to prepare. It forces you to consider your options and the impact your choices will have. Sometimes, it forces you to compromise. For me, it forced me to learn how to enjoy gaming again. It became something I actually cared about because of the personal investment, not the in-game resources it took to progress, and how satisfying the results were. So after all that, what's the goal? Honestly, I don't know. I'm in my 30s with a wife and kid. I recently came down with a case of the layoffs, and I don't know what opportunities are waiting for me or what it would look like for my life to take them just yet. I'm trying to be open-minded and have a little fun in the meantime. What I do know is that when I look back on all the games I've played, GTNH will stand out. Maybe it's me, maybe it's the modern era of games, maybe it's just a quirk of circumstance and timing in my life, I'm not sure. Minecraft tops my list of games with the most playtime by a pretty disgusting margin, but I've never played it quite like this. And hey, stay positive out there.